News Talk 920 and FM 96.5 KVEC presents the Pismo Beach Today Show. If it's happening in Pismo Beach, it's on Pismo Beach Today. Now, here's your host, Anita Shower.
Oh my gosh, good afternoon, and welcome to the Pismo Beach Today Show. My name is Anita Shower, and I am your desired radio personality. And we have Debbie Peterson with us. We're going to talk about the water issue in Grover. But first, I want to thank Dr. Electric, Miss Etiquette, Diamond Jewelry and Loan, Jim Dritzis, Bruce Van Vork, the Cop Dental Group, Pismo Dice with Pat McCann, Sierra Body Shop, Royal Grande Home and Garden, Doug McMillan, The Natural Toolbox with Roxy Buchanan, Kautz's Chevron, Elizabeth Head Insurance Services, Brenda Auer Real Estate, Splash, the grocery outlet in Arroyo Grande, and Kevin's 76 station in Pismo Beach. Thank you very much. Debbie Peterson, we're very happy to have you on here so we can figure out what is this water supposed rate going to do to us?
Well, thank you, Anita. I really appreciate you giving us a little bit of time today.
Of course.
And the water rates are due to double. They won't double right away. The first year, the water and sewer rates in this January will go up, I think, 20%. And then 20% year on year, so that in 4 years, it's going to be running at about $1,000 a year extra for the average user in Grover Beach.
They don't say that.
Yeah, we're calling it the Grinch that stole Christmas.
Oh my gosh. For every household in Grover Beach?
For the average household. And, you know, the thing is, when they sent out the letter, you only got the first 2 years. You got through, I think, 2026. And they said, oh, yeah, it's just 20%, but it's 20% year on year on year. And that comes up to almost double. It goes from about 170 every 2 months for water and sewer. And then it gets up to 340. Almost 340. I think it's 337 in 2028, January 2028.
I don't think that's going to make people very happy. So what I heard last night when we were discussing this, when we were out, was, but we're going to have a drought and this will save us from having a drought. What do you have to say about that?
Well, we've had a lot of droughts and we do need to get another water supply. And I think that's prudent. It's a good idea. I think that there are other ways to do it. And it's something that's been researched for years and years and years. And at one point, perhaps this was not the least expensive way to do it, but it wasn't as expensive as some of the other ways. But this is now quadrupled in price and there are new technologies. And I think some of the other ways that were looked at 7-8 years ago might now be more practical in terms of financially practical, something that we could actually afford, but would still help our aquifer.
So are we really helping Pismo Beach by joining this Central Coast Blue?
It started with Pismo Beach. They have this wonderful newish sewer that cleans up water really well. And they all along wanted to do this project. And they found out how expensive it was. And they thought, oh, let's ask Arroyo Grande, Grover Beach, and Oceano. And then, 2022, Oceano pulled out. Now, everybody said, yeah, that's a great idea when it was 25 million, but by 2022, it was 93 million.
When you say that, 93 million for what?
For this, yes, I should explain, Central
That's
Coast
right.
Blue, which is why we have to double Grover Beach water rates to pay our share of a Central Coast Blue project, which is digging up 18 wells in our streets in Grover.
And we
Beach.
haven't heard that from anybody but from you, correct?
Haven't heard what? That
About the 18 wells being dug and put in.
Oh, well, no, that information, Central Coast Blue has that information. It's not coming just from me. No,
but we didn't hear we didn't hear it from Grover Beach in anything.
No, what troubles me, I'm a real estate broker and I've worked
Yes.
as a right-of-way agent. And right-of-way agents often spend their time looking at what really happens on the ground when a project, because engineers draw a straight line from here to there. Right-of-way agents will go in and say, but wait a minute, if you do this, you're going to plow right through someone's house or right through someone's farm. And you really need to work it out this way. And they do a lot of working out. So I looked at it, I worked it out, and I realized, no, it's not going to just tear up 2 blocks of new streets. It's going to go crashing through every street in South Grover that's already been repaired. So it's going to slice through them. It's not going to be just 2 blocks. There'll be 15 blocks affected by putting
so 15 blocks are going to have 18 of these wells?
Yes,
Okay.
16 to 18.
All right.
Yes, some of them are.
How big is that? Is that as big as a car? Is that? I mean, I haven't. What? That's what people say.
I know.
That.
I know. I think that if you go to the impact report, and you can find that on the Central Coast Blue site, or if you want to get another look at it, a different viewpoint, you can go to itflowsdownhill.com. So just think of itflowsdownhill.com. And the EIR is there as well. And then there's also an addendum to the EIR that came out in August. I believe it said that the well sites are about 25 by 25, but they're mostly underground. So all you see on the top is, a little bit of service stuff. It won't really impact people, but when they're drilling the wells, it'll be 2 weeks, 24/7 of very high walls, very loud noise, and lights, very bright lights.
Yeah, that's what we want to know. It's some kind of big secret. You think you're just going to go by and there's going to be a hole where the hole was. There's going to be a little patch. But how did they do that? It's the dan 24/7.
You have to bore a well. Yeah, you have to bore a well. And then as you bore that well, lots and lots and lots and lots of water comes up. Of course, that's why you're putting a well there, because there's water.
So then where does that water go while all this is going on?
They had two options. One was 72 trucks a day across the new streets of South Grover for 2 years to dewater all of these wells while they're being drilled. The other option is just put it in the pipe and send it out to the ocean. They're going to be throwing away a lot of water. And even in the first phase of this project, which we know is 93 million, they are going to still be there will be a net deficit in the aquifer. And so this story that it's going to add more water is simply not true. If you look at the EIR, it is a net deficit. Not by much, might be just a few acre feet, but it is not adding water to the aquifer. It's taking more out.
And then did Arroyo Grande weigh in on this, and they're doing this, and everyone in Arroyo Grande realizes the impact?
It's not going to affect them nearly as much because nobody's going to tear up their streets, and
nobody's going to put a sewer plant. Why are we the lucky ones?
They're telling us, and we didn't find this out till June. And so a lot of people are saying, well, wait a minute, this project has been going on for 10 years. Why didn't you guys say something sooner? Well, it's because we didn't know it was 95 million until a year ago. We didn't know they were going to tear up our streets and put a sewer plant in South Grover. And we didn't know they were going to double our water bills. We were promised that the increase in 2021 would cover it. We didn't know that until September of this year, 2 months ago.
Where's the new sewer plant going?
It's going to be in the industrial area. It's going to be on the corner of Calvin Court and South 4th Street. And they bought roughly 2 acres for about $2 million.
They being who?
The junkyard. Central Coast Blue, Grover Beach and Pismo Beach, and sold them and put them into the Central Coast Blue project. The junkyards down by Couts Towing, where you see all those cars, those old junkers and the boats and things, they purchased those for about $2 million in 2020 for the big one, 1.8 million, and then the smaller one on the corner of Calvin Court, where they have all those eucalyptus trees. That's the one that was purchased by Grover Beach last spring.
Oh, so Grover Beach is the one that purchased the Calvin Court area for $2 million?
No, Grover Beach purchased that for $200,000, and they waived a few fines and things that were levied on that property. So it's probably really more like 225, 250. And Pismo bought the big part of it, which was the 1.62 acres, I believe, in 2020 during COVID. And they spent 1.8 million for that, which is amazing because I don't think any of the cannabis properties went for that much.
And that's all the Grover Beach part of it and the Pismo Beach part of it are right together on Calvin Court off of 4th Street. And then to the see what that be to the north of that is where the new cabins are going to go.
Yeah, it's in that same area. They're almost, they're neighbors. They're neighbors.
We call that just ducky. Okay. So that's what happened there. But we're getting this, what's going to happen to Grover Beach is not anywhere near what's going to happen in Arroyo Grande. They're not going to suffer this way.
No, Arroyo Grande decided they were only going to take 25% of the cost and 25% of the water. Grover Beach decided we were going to take 36%, and Pismo is taking 39%. But you know what's really interesting about that? And I understand that the water table belongs to all of us, but Pismo's wells are in Grover Beach. And
Yes.
forever, Grover Beach has just taken 60% of its water from the water table beneath Grover Beach. And now we're going to pay double our water rates to pretty basically get that same water. And so it's there's kind of an unkind irony to that.
And then tell me how the campaign is going. You have people that have canvassed this 2.3 square miles, ladies and gentlemen. So all that Grover Beach is, 2.3 square miles. And we need how many signatures, and the city won't tell you how many there are now.
That's correct. We need half the water users in the city plus one. Anybody whose name is on a water account or who owns property can send in a letter that says, I disapprove of this rate increase. And they have to make sure they have their name printed on it, it's hand printed on there, sign it, and have their address on it. And but we have to have half the city plus one. And this is very difficult for most owners, but for commercial, it's almost impossible because their water rates are even higher than ours.
Well, a laundromat would be higher.
Well, they all are. All the commercial
Gas
rates are higher.
Car washes, they're all much higher. Let me ask you this. If you own 5 or 6 pieces in Grover Beach, can you fill out that form 5 or 6 times with the address of your property?
You can put all 5 addresses on the one letter, but to be sure that they don't accidentally just count it as one, I would send in one letter for each property.
And wouldn't you also advise people, make sure you take a copy of it and put it somewhere?
Absolutely. I would take a photograph of it. Yes. But the other thing you can do is go into the city and ask the city clerk to make a copy of it and give you a stamped copy, and she'll stamp her own copy. And then you have proof that the city clerk has received it. But absolutely, at least take a photograph of it so that you have some evidence that you've turned it in.
Yeah, I believe in doing that. Have the city clerk give you a stamp.
The city clerk is the best way to do it, if you can. Yeah.
So may I ask, have you made this presentation to Pismo Beach?
No, although I did. All the real estate, I won't say all, but 13 real estate brokers in Grover Beach are very concerned about this because they know that the tenants can't afford it. So that means property managers will lose their profit because they can't put their prices up. And businesses are going to lose their margin, and people are going to lose their disposable income. $1,000 a year is a lot of money for people. So we did speak to the Realtor Association a couple of days ago. We had a panel with an attorney and 3 brokers and a local wastewater expert.
And was that Jeff English?
No, he crashed the meeting. It was a private realtor meeting, but he did come. He showed up. He was the only non-real estate member who was there, apart from our attorney who was speaking, and the water.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Debbie Peterson. We're talking about water in Grover Beach. He crashed the meeting, but he was allowed to be at the meeting.
Yeah, we didn't kick him out.
No, of course not. And then did he offer any information, or was he allowed to offer any information?
Well, he did want to ask questions, but there were a lot of realtors with questions, and we took those questions first, and we ran out of time. Okay. We had it scheduled for just an hour, and the panel spoke for half an hour, 4 minutes per panelist, and then we allowed questions for half an hour, and we ran out of time for everybody's questions. So,
and then tell me about Arroyo Grande. Have you met with Mayor Karen?
I have not, no.
Okay.
And I have huge respect for Mayor Waggy. I've always thought he was delightful and a great guy. And I really understand why Pismo Beach needs this. They use 237 gallons of water a day per capita. Grover Beach uses somewhere between 50 and 60 gallons per capita. So we don't use very much. They use a lot more because they have all the hotels.
That's
and
right.
The way that Pismo is paying for this, they have raised their water rates. Their water rates are higher, but the way they're paying for it is they're going to charge huge development fees. And they decided this way back in, I believe it was 2015, and it was reported on in the Tribune. They're going to make their development fees as high as $29,000 plus. And they'll be able to cover about 55% of their costs with that. And then the other 45% is going to be of the total cost is covered by grants based on the demographics of Grover Beach and Oceano, because we have a much higher poverty rate.
Yes, we're in a different classification from Pismo Beach.
Yeah. So we get to double our water rates to pay for our share, because we can't develop in the same way that Pismo can, or even
Isn't that
Arroyo
funny?
Grande.
We're in a different category classification from Pismo Beach, yet our rates are going to go sky high for a demographic that is so different from Pismo Beach.
Yeah,
We're all going to suffer.
Yeah, and the people who are going to suffer most are the poorest will suffer most, and that I think is what has really troubled everyone. And to a man and a woman on that 5-speaker panel, every single one of them was really, their first concern was, what about the poor in Grover Beach? They can't do this. We know they can't do this, because if we're struggling, they have to be.
Well, the answer to that, when you talk to someone about, I don't want the rates to go up. I don't want that. What's going to happen with my renters? And then somebody else will counter, well, you can always raise their rent. That's not always the answer. That's not the way everyone feels.
Well, you can't, because first of all, there are laws. You can only raise the rent maximum 10% a year, and you can only raise it in line with inflation, so with certain indexes. And yes, you could take the water out and charge it through separately, but the reality is people can't pay it.
I understand.
So, that's the problem. You can raise the rent, but people can't pay it, and there's a limit to how high you can raise it.
Well, why would you do that to your renters? If you're in the business of real estate, you know exactly, based on the demographics of your city, what people can afford.
And the rents are already high.
They're very high. That's one of
because the property is expensive to buy.
It's expensive to buy. It's expensive to live here.
Yeah.
And what I heard last week from a realtor is San Luis Obispo County is now the 3rd highest county in California regarding rent.
Yes. And the other thing that is really hard for people in Grover is that we voted to fix our streets. Nobody else in the county has had to fix their own residential streets. And so our property taxes right now are 9.5% added on. And so we've already got that. And now they want to double the water prices. The TOT in Grover Beach is as high as any in the county, but we get nothing back for it. And so there's charge after charge after charge, and very little return.
So why don't we just raise the sales tax?
Everybody has to pay sales tax.
Everybody has to pay sales tax. Wouldn't that be more equitable than saying we're going to do it this way or that way?
It is, but I think raising the sales tax, if you're lucky, will bring you in $1 million, at most $2 million.
All right, then go out and get grants just the way Pismo does.
Or do what? Sorry?
Go out and get grants the way Pismo Beach does.
Well, we have. Half of the project is grant funded. It's grant funded because of our demographic, but Pismo is also benefiting from that.
Yes.
So
we are going to benefit Pismo Beach if this goes through.
Yeah, there was one of the speakers at the last council meeting said, we will be the new industrial area for Pismo Beach. Originally, this was all planned in the Pismo Beach industrial area, and then it moved to Grover.
Where's the industrial area in Pismo Beach?
It's where those playing fields are, under the bridge, under the freeway. You go over that bridge.
Public Works is there.
The Public Works.
That's their industrial area.
Yes, and that's where the sewer is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if this is the answer to do this to the citizenry of Grover Beach. I've not heard anything positive about it except from one person, because this person that I talked to last night was worried about the drought.
Yes, and you know what? The drought is a problem, but we are not in a drought right now. Lopez Lake is full. Even if we get no rain for 5 years, there's enough water there. So we have 5 years that we can take a look. And we have had droughts. The lake has never run dry. It came close. It never ran dry, but it did come close to reaching the level, I think it's 25%, where we really couldn't draw anymore. It came close. And the groundwater, we have to be very careful how much we draw, because it could cause seawater intrusion. There's debate about whether we've really had it or not. But the other thing is, I don't think that this solves that problem. This does not put more water into our aquifer. It does not raise the level of water in aquifer. They say all their modeling will push the seawater back so they can take more out than they're putting back in. And I guess that really remains to be seen.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Debbie Peterson. We're talking about the water issue in Grover. Now, when you sat on the city council, was this always an issue then? Water?
Well, it was always, we always worried about raising rates. Nobody wants to do that. And we were always very careful. And Grover Beach was always very frugal and did a good job of managing their money. And certainly we were looking at all of these issues the whole time. And, I made sure that we put in an ordinance for gray water, and I made sure that we put in a drought resistant garden, demonstration garden at Ramona Park. And so, and had I even had a water workshop. And when I was the mayor, we had the lowest water use that I think we've ever had. It was about 50 gallons per person per day, which is really low. So, I've been following it all along. The whole community's been following it all along, and all of our elected officials have been looking at the studies. So we can go back to some of those studies that we have and take another look and see if maybe now those might be a more affordable way of addressing having some emergency water in the event of when the next drought comes, if we need it.
Now, are those studies available to the whoever's listening? Are they available online?
Yes. You can. They're kind of hard to find. Arroyo Grande seems to be the easiest. That arroyogrande.org. If you Google that seems to be the easiest place to find a lot of the studies. Central Coast Blue has some. A lot of the current studies for Central Coast Blue simply don't seem to be coming up. I haven't been able to see current geological studies, and
wouldn't that be helpful?
What's that?
I said, wouldn't that be helpful?
Well, it would make me feel more comfortable. Yeah, sure. And one thing I want to make sure that we get through to people too is that there is a huge urgency to this. I mean, of course, there's a lot of urgency. Central Coast Blue is pushing us to go through with this.
Yes, they are.
Also making people nervous. They are really marketing it. And but the other thing is that unless we get those signatures on those letters,
and how many is that?
December 11th.
And how many do we need? 2,000 plus one?
We need about 2,500 plus one. They say there are about 4,800 to 5,000 water accounts. So that's a big ask. And it means, it's hard to reach some of the businesses. It's hard to reach some of the landlords. They're not in town. So it's a big ask, but we're trying. And it's been a really big grassroots effort. I started getting involved when I saw that I probably couldn't afford to pay my water bills when this happened, because I have a mixed use building. So I have some commercial charges I have 2 charges on my bill. Even though I have only one water meter, I pay both commercial rate and residential rate. Not quite sure why that happens, but it's how it is.
That's because the water meter, if you want to put it in, sometime it's $3,200 to put in a separate meter.
Yes, that's what they tell you.
Even though you can buy that meter online for $800.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure it's legal to make that charge, because they're not allowed to charge you for something that you might use in the future. So that's something we'll look at later.
So is that something a realtor would know? Because I've never heard that, and I'm not denying it.
Yeah. No, I know. Well, maybe, but the reason I know it is because I started researching Proposition 218, and this whole process is called a Proposition 218 protest. Basically, I don't like the term protest because it makes it sound kind of way out there, but in fact, that is what the Proposition 218 calls it. It's a protest.
I like that word protest. And that people they have banded together.
Yeah. They have. And they've banded together. It's a lot of the people I don't even know. And they'll just call me up and say, hey, what can we do? So I started organizing the walking. But a lot of people are doing it completely independently. They're just going around and talking to their neighbors. It's really quite amazing. I've never seen Grover Beach come out like this before.
Yeah, we want to thank Dr. Electric, Miss Etiquette, Diamond Jewelry and Loan, Jim Dritzis, Bruce Van Vork, the Cop Dental Group, Pismo Dice, Sierra Body Shop, Arroyo Grande Home and Garden, Doug McMillan, The Natural Toolbox with Roxy Buchanan, Couts' Chevron, Elizabeth Head Insurance Services, Brenda Auer Real Estate, Splash, the grocery outlet in Arroyo Grande, and Kevin's 76 station, Pismo Beach. How do you feel about how it's going? Do you think we have 1,000 people that have responded and left that magic piece of paper at City Hall?
Every single door that we knock on, they either sign one or say they've already sent it in. Every single door that we catch.
That's wonderful, because this you can walk this in 3 weekends. So if you put your mind on it, you can walk it in 2 weeks, right? 2.3 square miles isn't very big. And
Yes.
and some people feel that 2.3 square miles in Grover Beach is being put upon.
It is. Well, I think that's, I agree. I don't know why we should have all the impact.
Well,
it's a social justice issue, really.
Well, that's a very good way of putting it. Maybe we should also put that out there. It is injustice.
It is a social injustice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we hope to have you come back on. We can see if we can get you to come back on before the vote is due, and we can just keep reiterating what it is you have to say. And we certainly appreciate you, Debbie Peterson, for doing this. You have the facts. You like to speak, and people like to listen.
Thank you so much, Anita.
Is there a phone number where someone may reach you before we sign off?
Sure. 805-550-4490. And if they want to pick up some of those forms, the letters, I have them in a yellow dispenser box at the end of my driveway at 160 South 3rd Street. They can just come grab as many of those letters as they need and go walk their neighborhood.
You've been listening to the Pismo Beach Today show with Anita Shower on News Talk 920 and FM 96.5 KVEC. For comments, questions, and to hear this broadcast in its entirety, find the podcast at 920kvec.com.